Let's dive right into this explainer. We all recognize the iconic silhouette of the Colosseum, right? I mean, it stands today as the absolute ultimate symbol of Roman grandeur and architectural genius. But when we look at those ancient, towering stones, we're really only seeing half the picture. Today, we're going to look right past those awe-inspiring arches and uncover the dark, hidden engine that powered Rome's most famous and brutal spectacles. We're going to dig into the mechanical and deeply human reality of how this massive theater of death actually functioned. To really understand the stakes of this structure, we have to start with the staggering death toll it accumulated. Over its roughly 400-year history, an estimated 400,000 men and over 1 million beasts lost their lives on the sand of that arena floor. Just to put that into perspective, the inaugural games alone, hosted by Emperor Titus in 80 AD, lasted for 100 days straight and saw 9,000 animals slaughtered. So this wasn't just casual weekend entertainment, it was a highly organized state-sponsored industry of death designed specifically to thrill the public and project the absolute unmatched power of the Roman Empire.
Section 1. The Grandeur of Rome. Let's start with the world above the sand. Imagine being one of the 50,000 citizens gathering for the ultimate display of entertainment. The arena was essentially a microcosm of Roman society, where everyone was literally put in their proper social place. It was designed with 76 numbered entrances for the public, which efficiently managed the crowds just like a modern sports stadium. But once you were inside, the strict social hierarchy completely took over. If you were a Roman senator, you sat in the lowest, most opulent tier, with marble seating, mere feet away from the bloodshed. But as you moved up the tiers, your social status went down. It ended at the very top, over 300 feet away from the action, on cramped wooden benches strictly reserved for women, the poorer citizens, and slaves. It was a brilliant, highly visible social performance that reminded every single Roman exactly where they stood.
And get this, the sheer luxury experienced by that crowd was honestly astounding. Spectators were completely shaded from the blistering Mediterranean sun by an enormous retractable awning called the velarium. Because it was rigged a lot like the sail of a massive ship, it actually had to be operated by a highly coordinated team of at least 240 sailors brought in directly from the Roman Navy. And, to make the experience completely pleasant, the air was continuously sprayed with perfumes and incense just to mask the terrible metallic stench of blood and wild animals.
Section 2. Descent into the Hypogeum, the world below. Now we are going to completely flip the script and plunge beneath the arena floor. The juxtaposition is jarring. While the emperor and the citizens up top were enjoying sunshine, cool shade, and perfumed breezes, just beneath their feet was a literal hell on earth. It was a chaotic, high-stakes, terrifying environment entirely dedicated to ensuring that the show above went off without a single hitch. Welcome to the Hypogeum. Taking its name from the Greek word for underground, this massive two-story masonry labyrinth was added about a decade after the Colosseum originally opened. It was the ultimate backstage area. For nearly 400 years, this was the true engine that drove the Colosseum. Its design was so incredibly effective that it was constantly modified, restructured, and updated to adapt to the empire's ever-growing demand for bigger and much more elaborate spectacles.
Section 3. The Engine of Spectacle. Ancient Engineering at Work.
So how did this engine actually work? It was an unbelievable yet terrifying mechanical system designed to literally make magic happen on the sand. Operating seamlessly, 28 original lifts required immense, perfectly synchronized physical labor to suddenly summon wild animals right out of thin air. Imagine the incredible precision required here. An animal is loaded into a cage. A team of 8 men then push heavy wooden levers in a circle to turn a massive vertical drum or capstan. Ropes wind through a complex pulley system, lifting that heavy cage up a steep ramp. The exact moment the cage hits a specific stop, a hinge triggers, a trapdoor flips open on the arena floor, and a wild beast springs out onto the sand. And we know this worked. In 2015, a replica lift built using authentic ancient Roman techniques proved that a cage holding hundreds of pounds could easily be hoisted by just a small team of men.
Section 4. The hidden human cost. The invisible workforce. But look, to call the Hypogeum an engineering marvel is to tell only half the story, right? It was a marvel built for a monstrous purpose. The architectural genius of those lifts is completely inseparable from the profound suffering of the enslaved, invisible workforce that operated them in totally brutal conditions. Imagine working in utter pitch-black darkness, sweating in the intense, stifling heat of a Roman summer,
waiting for a single drumbeat to blindly operate heavy machinery, all while panicked lions are roaring just inches from your face. The noise alone would have been deafening: creaking wood, snapping ropes, growling beasts, and the thunderous stomping of 50,000 cheering spectators right over your head. And we actually have physical proof of their lives down there. Recent archaeological digs in the ancient drains of the Hypogeum have unearthed objects like dice, gaming pieces, and even the remains of snacks, haunting little remnants of the humanity that was trapped inside this dangerous machine.
Section 5. A Theater of Death. The Carciere. Because the Hypogeum wasn't just a place of hard labor, it was also the final holding area for the condemned. This area, known as the carcer, was a terrifying, grim waiting room. This is where prisoners, criminals, and gladiators waited in the dark, knowing exactly what was coming the moment those heavy wooden doors opened. It was a space of intense psychological torture that peaked right before they were hoisted up into the blinding sunlight to meet a violent end. The logistical brilliance that moved thousands of men and beasts through these tunnels is entirely bound to the calculated cruelty inflicted upon them just to ensure the crowd got a good show.
Section 6. The Fall and True Legacy. The End of this Spectacle.
So, how did this all come to an end? As the empire declined, so did the games. In the 5th century, the massive financial costs became totally unsustainable, and the rise of Christianity began shifting public morals. Gladiatorial combat was banned by Emperor Honorius around 404 AD. The beast hunts lasted a little bit longer, with the absolute final recorded hunt taking place in 523 AD, well after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. After that, the Colosseum fell into disuse. That great machine in its belly was completely abandoned. Over the centuries, the Hypogeum filled with earth and rubble, its very existence fading from memory until it was systematically excavated in the 19th and 20th centuries. And what those excavators found were literally the ghosts of the machine, the skeletal remains of the tunnels and shafts that once powered an empire's entertainment.
Fast forward a bit to 1349, and a massive earthquake shattered the building. But you know that famous, iconic, half-broken shape of the Colosseum we see today? That isn't just from random age or weathering. It's the result of a fatal geological flaw chosen by its own ancient engineers. You see, the northern half was built directly onto solid limestone bedrock, so it survived the tremors. But the southern half? It was built over the unstable, waterlogged sediment of an old, artificial lake that previously belonged to Emperor Nero's palace. When the earthquakes hit, that soft ground actually amplified the shocks, bringing the entire southern wall crashing down.
Over the centuries, the abandoned arena was heavily pillaged and entirely repurposed. It certainly didn't just sit there looking pretty. At one point, it was literally used as a medieval fortress. Later, it was subdivided into a bustling neighborhood with housing, workshops, and stables built right into the ancient vaulted arches. But most destructively, it became a massive, state-sanctioned stone quarry. You know those deep, pockmarked holes you see all over the outside of the Colosseum today? Those aren't from war. They are the scars left behind by medieval scavengers who chipped away the stone to extract 300 tons of precious iron clamps holding the building together. The beautiful travertine stone was carted away to build the modern city of Rome, including parts of St. Peter's Basilica.
Which brings us to its true legacy today. The Colosseum stands as a symbol of Roman grandeur, sure, but its legacy is deeply twofold. It's a monument to the absolute heights of Roman ingenuity, but it is equally a monument to the depths of its institutionalized brutality. It was a system that put theatrical effect above all else, a place where functionality and cruelty were one and the same. The magic that dazzled the audience, the brilliant crowd control, the majestic concrete arches, all of it was built on a foundation of hidden suffering. That magic was powered entirely by the sweat, blood, and desperation of an invisible, enslaved workforce.
So it leaves us with a pretty profound question to chew on regarding our own history. When we marvel at the magnificent ruins of ancient empires, what exactly are we choosing to celebrate? Are we just dazzled by the brilliant mechanics and the towering architecture, or are we listening closely enough to hear the ghosts of the machine, the thousands of unseen souls who lived, toiled, and died in the darkness below? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer of the Colosseum's true legacy. I really hope it's given you a completely new perspective on one of the world's most famous monuments.